Amnesia. That is what I am reviewing this week. And of course, it's bad because I didn't roll into it. I selected it. So I had to do my due diligence and get a bad one for you. So let me give you the details on Amnesia. It's a 12-episode anime from 2013, and it's based on a visual novel, of course.
Of course.
Why is it an of course? Because it's a reverse harem shoujo. And I've come to the realization that terrible reverse harem is my jam. And make no mistake, this right here is pretty terrible. So before we break down the ins and outs of Amnesia, let me give you a synopsis. After fainting at work, a young lady awakes in the back room of the cafe she works at with no memory of her life or those around her. Two of her friends, whom she soon learns are called Shin and Toma, are ordered to help her get home safely. When she is alone, she meets a spectral boy named Orion that only she can see. He explains that she has lost her memories because of his chance visit to her world. So he vows to help her remember who she is. Amnesia, you see a theme?
I see it.
However, regaining her departed memories without worrying those around her may be more difficult than she realizes. In addition to the gloomy Shin and the protective Toma, she must be wary of arousing the suspicions of the captivating Ikki, the quick-witted Kent, and a mysterious man who lurks in the distance. As her amnesia entangles her in the lives of each of these men, her fragmented memories return piece by piece, and the mysteries of her circumstances slowly come to light. So there it is, in all its gloriousness. Amnesia. And yes, this show is pretty rank, as you'd expect. It's overly complicated. Check. Animation is piss poor. Check. Our protagonist, Heroine. Yes, that's her name. Heroine is awful. Check. It's an absolute car crash, and it's fundamentally stupid to its core. So, of course, I loved it. But this thingy they call a plot is so complicated, I'm not even going to try and review it. I'm not going to be avoiding spoilers while giving you a general idea of the strengths and weaknesses of the narrative while breaking down the key themes of the series, because honestly, it's a waste of time, breath, and energy. And unless you're a fan of these kind of shows, I can confidently tell anyone listening, don't waste your time and energy with this show. Now let me give you some additional details. Essentially, it's a straight adaptation of a dating sim. Heroine, while trying to regain her memories, spends a couple of episodes each with a different bishi boy and learns the various details of their relationship. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, we get time shifts, various timelines existing simultaneously, lolly boy fairies, the king of fairies, Neil, the haunted Rubik's Cube, the world itself going all Final Destination, and one stupid protagonist. Heroine is dumb, like all-time dumb. So dumb, in fact, that she basically has a hard time forming cohesive sentences throughout the first half of the series, and is basically mumbles McGee the haunted tree for several episodes as things just happen to her. When she finally does get a mind of her own, the decisions she makes throughout the series involve stunning feats of stupidity, the likes of which the world has never seen before. Like, I cannot stress enough how thick she is. In a word, she's a dunce. But let's get to the good stuff. The Bishi Boys.
Of course.
Each boy has his own arc in Amnesia, and it ultimately culminates with, as you'd expect, her getting to choose which one of these dolly birds she would like to end up with. Now, I will say this, in the show's favor, the character design wasn't horrendous. If I want a show full of Bishi Boys, they gotta look good. And for the most part, these guys look pretty good. So that was great, I guess. And the developments they each get is actually better than average. This is not like Code Realized levels of bad characters. They're actually pretty decent. So we start off with boy number one. That is Shin. Or as the Mal rewrite team calls him, the gloomy Shin. He looks like your standard anime lead. Think of a more androgynous light. This guy's a real piece of work. And hands down, the worst of the boys in the series. He is the definition of a creep. He constantly puts her down, calls her stupid. And yes, I know she is stupid, so you don't have to go and tell her that. And he is just generally a really emotionally abusive piece of cheese. Because I can't say what I want to call him. He wears these two chokers around his neck, which I think is pretty fitting because from everything I've seen about him, I'm thinking he's a choker.
Yeah.
If you're catching my meaning. And I'm confident that if I use my magic ball to see into his future, it will involve being found in a closet in a pool of his own jizz as his pants rest around his ankles and a belt is wrapped around his neck. At least he died doing what he loved. Now, I did start imagining sex with these guys, okay?
As any good harem will have you do.
Any good harem will have you do. Sex with Shin would be a real treat as he chokes our poor little heroine throughout while calling her the most colourful of names.
You dunce.
Ye of little intelligence. And guess what? The show itself backs up my theory because when she wakes from her accident, which forced her to lose her memory, she has scratches nowhere except for her neck. What a creepy dude. Sadly, however, we never get to see the relationship get that far into the choking stages because heroine slipped and fell off a cliff. Don't worry though, she didn't die. She traveled back in time to a new timeline where Heroine is dating another boy. Bring out number 2. It's time for Ikki. Now, Ikki is a real player, a smooth talker with some powerful come to bed with me eyes. His eyes are apparently so magically sexy that any lady who gazes into them will need a change of underwear immediately. But his powers do not work on Heroine.
She's too dumb.
This dude was all in all okay. He was very rapey in the beginning, vibes-wise. So much so, in fact, that I was going to dub him the Rape of Spades because he has a purple spade tattooed under his eye. But he kind of toned down those rapier qualities as we learn more about him. Overall, he seemed like a pleasant enough sort of chap, but his fan club are pretty ravenous, we'll say, and made Heroine's life pretty miserable in this timeline. So it may have been impossible to get too far with Ikki before the fangirls struck. Ikki's a kinky fellow now. He mentions quite a lot how kinky he is actually in the show. So I'm imagining sex with him would involve pretending to be a cat while you punish him for scratching your new sofa. However, again, sadly, we never get to see this as Heroine was pushed into a rowboat by Ikki's possessive fan club at a lake. The boat gently drifted out into the middle of the lake, and then Heroine fell into the water and died again. For some reason, when she fell into the water, rather than attempt to swim, she looked mildly surprised and just sank into a pit of darkness without moving a muscle. Good stuff. And then bam, we go back in time again. Now she's dating boy number 3, Kent. Kent is a very smart boy, but he has some emotional problems. Kent wasn't programmed to understand human emotion. Kent's idea of a romantic date is having Heroine sit quietly on the couch for several hours while he continues his research. You see, Kent just doesn't do well with others. He is too smart. Oh, why? Why was he programmed to feel loneliness? Kent isn't in fact a robot, but he's basically a robot. Over the course of the arc with Kent, we learned that Kent was programmed to feel love, pain, and other emotions. He just needs the right girl to bring it out of him. Turns out Kent has found his right girl, and that is Heroine, and they had a nice time together. And you know what? I really like Kent. He was my favorite. There were some entertaining moments together, and he was the only one who never got rapey with her at any time. And that's not to say he didn't get physical. Quite the opposite, in fact. Our boy Kent was researching all the ways to please a woman.
Pulled his lever.
And he put some of that learning into effect, if you know what I mean. Let me give you a scene from the show that I really quite liked. My research shows that women find it pleasurable if men place their fingers here, then apply some pressure and begin to rub that area. Do you enjoy that? Is it giving you pleasure? Please respond. I need verbal... Please respond. I gotta get this out. Get it out. Please respond. I need verbal confirmation that this is something that you enjoy. Heroine sadly tells him that it's hurting her as he is rubbing her too vigorously. Ow. Despondent Ken removes his fingers and looks at them. Perhaps I applied too much pressure. Don't worry, Kent. Head pats are difficult to master.
That was great.
You'll do better next time. Now, sex with Kent. Here's what I'm thinking. I'd imagine it would be similar to picking up 2 wooden boards and violently banging them against each other over and over again until eventually growing tired and stopping. #unfulfilled. He was my favorite boy, though. Sadly, Heroine got shoulder bumped by some random pedestrian and died, apparently, because we went back in time again.
Smart. She's not a smart lady.
And now she's dating Tomo. Tomo is hilarious. Sadly, it was unintentional at this point. I should reveal that I watched the dub, and this is where the comedy comes from with Toma. You see, all of these beautiful Bishi boys are all aged between 18 and 22 and are studying or working in college. Tomo is no exception. He's 20, young, lithe, and handsome. So, of course, when they were casting voice artists for the role of Toma, there was only one name to choose: Christopher Aries. Now, if you're not familiar with the man, you are familiar with his work. He did Frieza in the Dragon Ball dubs.
Oh, God.
He's also short, fat, and 53 years of age. He sounded even older than his 53 years in the dub, and it made the whole thing unintentionally funny. But voice aside, Toma's a sweet boy. Probably the sweetest boy in this series. He just wants to keep Heroine safe from all the evil girls of Ikki's fan club and the people trying to hurt her. So he does the only thing he can think of to keep her safe. Drug her, lock her in a cage with a bunch of stuffed toys, and make her wear lingerie. It's the only way she can be safe. Honestly, it is. How else is a man supposed to protect the woman he loves? Anyway, he forces himself on her a few times until she realizes she loves him. Now, she realizes this as he's about to rape her.
Does it smell like chloroform to you?
But have no fear. He's so moved by her confession of love that he becomes a good guy. It all looks like...
No way.
Yeah. So he becomes a good guy, and it looks like they're going to live happily ever after, because this is the furthest she's got with anyone. This is the first time she's actually professed feelings of love. Sadly, though, she gets thrown off a hospital roof before we could see some legal lolly teddy bear sex. So... Guess what happens? Boy number 5 shows up. Now we're on episode 11 and 12. This boy is Ukyo, and he was actually the dude who threw heroin off the roof of the hospital. So he's definitely a keeper. He looks like a cross between Cece from Code Geass and a gay biker, and he's possessed by Neil the Fairy King. The problem is this possession manifests itself as a dual personality disorder, where one of the personalities, Ukyo, just wants to love and protect heroin, while Neil the Fairy King just wants to kill her. What's cool about Ukyo is that he tends to flip personalities at nighttime. So what's the best way to show he has split personalities? Well, how about this? Imagine the scene. It's nighttime. He's got a flashlight. When he turns evil, he turns on the flashlight, holds it up to his face, and starts to laugh manically. That works, right? I know he's bad now. He's got a flashlight. So, the key question. Sex with Ukyo. It would be confusing, but rewarding. I think it would bounce between tender kisses and playful touching to biting, hair pulling, and lots of slapping. So, basically a fun evening for all involved. All 3 people involved.
Yeah.
The ending. She gets her memories back. She's transported to a fairy world, meets a possessed Rubik's Cube, and says goodbye to her fairy lolly companion Orion before making a choice of which boy she wants to be with.
I kind of want to watch it.
Well, here's the thing. I kind of enjoyed it. I kind of finished it. And I'm going to give it a D+.
Ooh.
For Dishy Dies.
Dishy Dies. I like it.
Dies. And that was my review of, what was it again?
Amnesia.
Amnesia.
Lol.
Who did she choose?
Well, that's the ultimate question, right? So what happens is she leaves the haunted Rubik's Cube. She goes through these doors and there's 5 playing cards in front of her. And all the boys are color-coded for your convenience. So Shin is red, Ikki is blue, my boy Kent is green, Toma is orange, and the bipolar dude is another shade of green, like a lighter shade of green. And she has to make a decision. Who is she going to choose?
Let me guess. She forgot which color was which one.
She smiled, took a step forward, and the show ended.
Oh.
What?
That's hard to be fair.
I was pretty happy because there was no way in hell she was picking my boy Kent.
It'll live longer.
But in my mind,
in Yata's mind,
she's programming him to love.